Hey everybody, this is Colin Murphy and welcome to Colin Podcasting About Real Estate Show 49. So I hope you guys are all doing great. I'm keeping busy as ever on the investing side of things. My land business is off to the races. I have my first couple of lots under contract, so I'm excited about that. I've also invested in a new CRM system, so I'm having fun trying to integrate that with the mail campaigns that I've been sending out. CRMs are always a tricky one. It's kind of tempting to do everything in Google, but you can kind of quickly realize that if you want to scale something or systemize it or teach other people how to process leads and line up tasks and inquiries so that I can maximize my time, then you kind of need to invest in some software and pay people some money to get things organized for you. So I've been doing a bit of that. It's a little bit tedious, but I think it's going to be worthwhile. And it's, so far so good. Real estate flipping is still coming along strongly. I've got some momentum now with a lot of houses moving along and several getting close to completion. Looking forward to getting my tax returns finalized so that I can process a couple of more loans as well. So I have a lot of stuff kind of that I've been working towards that I think is going to come to fruition in the near future in terms of adding more properties to my portfolio, cashing out on some flips, getting access to some properties that I've been trying to get access on. Flipping my first land or getting my first seller finance deal going. So yeah, a lot of different things going on. I'm networking with some really interesting people as well with my masterminds, and it's good to do that if you're not networking with other people that are trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve, whether that's to grow your business, whether you're a wholesaler or a flipper, or whether it's to build and add properties to your rental portfolio. If you can kind of get yourself to some RIA meetings or to start networking with some other investors, really does make a big difference to your mindset and your motivation. And I'd really encourage you to start doing that either in person or virtually. There's no shortage of opportunities for either nowadays. So getting back to the podcast, really interesting guest today. His name is Chris Miles. Turns out we know a lot of different people in common. We've hung out with some of the big fix and flippers around the country, but we've never spoken or met each other before. But Chris has been involved in a lot of different investments during his career. He achieved financial independence, twice before the age of 40, once in his late 20s, and then the financial crash hit and he had to start again, and now he's built it again from a much more solid platform, and we kind of dig into both. He's been featured in CNN, US News, a bunch of other places, and he's got a great reputation for teaching investors how to create income streams, cash flow, lasting wealth. He's a lot of really good wisdom and kind of strategic advice that I haven't really had on the show before. He has a different way, a different philosophy of looking at it that I enjoyed digging into. We talked about his early career as a financial advisor, how he quickly became disillusioned with that, basically because he didn't believe the promises being made. He kind of feels that whole work for 30 years, put everything in mutual funds and IRAs. He's not a big fan of that at all in terms of its likelihood of creating real financial independence or reliable income streams or wealth for people. He has some ideas on how to do it in a much better or safer way from his point of view, and I agree with a lot of what he said. He talks about his pivot into real estate investing, his interesting kind of views on the types of income streams you should target actively and the types you should target passively, and it kind of depends on how you think about them and how much you enjoy doing them. And with the active stuff being focus on what you enjoy doing, that should be your active, and passive you don't need to enjoy it as much. Dig into the types of investments he currently has, which is quite an eclectic mix, and it's interesting to learn about them, and how he's helping others and coaching others on switching their mindsets. That most of the things preventing people from completely changing the trajectory of their financial wealth isn't necessarily access to capital or access to money, but it's very much mental blocks and mindset shifts, which everybody is capable of. It's not there's no kind of secret insiders club here or anything like that. I mean, this stuff is all very accessible, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. It might, open a door somewhere and make you think about the path you're on slightly differently. I don't know. I mean, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Either way, he's an interesting guy, and let's check it out. Let's see what Chris has to say. Chris Miles, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, it's a pleasure being here, Colin.
No, I'm looking forward to talking to you. I know we know a lot of people in common, so that's always cool to discover as well. And listen, I know you're into a lot of cool stuff, Chris, but before we dig into your career, can you just kind of bring us way back, talk to us about where you grew up, if your family was entrepreneurial?
Yeah, to some level, my family was and wasn't. It was split. So I'm,
Uh-huh.
kind of a bipolar situation, I guess you could say, right? But my dad was very not entrepreneurial.
Hmm.
Very much worked for that company for 30, 40 years. If they stay
Okay.
loyal to you, that is, right? Which they never usually did. He was more loyal to them than they were to him.
Yeah.
But he was always that traditional mindset of you work hard, you go to college, even though I didn't, but you go, Chris, and you be the first one in our family to go to college and all that kind of stuff. While my mom was more of a free spirit, she's an artist. She was trained by the same master painter that trained, Bob Ross, with the happy little trees and that kind
Wow.
of thing. So she was, trained in that same modality as he was, and she was more entrepreneurial. But
Hmm.
again, both of them never really saw or attained a huge amount of success, but they were decent. They had a decent, good life.
That's good. And so were you, did you enjoy earning money when you were a kid in high school? Were you hustling, mowing lawns, all that good stuff, or what
I
did you
actually
do?
was. Yeah, I actually the first job I had that I got paid a wage was what actually worked for my mom's art gallery. And I was like
Okay.
8 or 9 years old, trying to pay for my art classes, right?
Hmm.
And then a few years later, I started doing like my own lawn mowing business and things like that, and collected a lot of baseball cards. So I lost a lot of it into the late '80s, early '90s, sports cards, which really didn't become worth much. So that was my first investment, and probably one of my worst investments. My coin collection did better than my baseball cards did, right? Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, I mean, I was kind of entrepreneurial, but I was very introverted, so it was amazing I even got out and did anything. But I went the traditional path, went to college, and
Okay.
majored in sociology. And I actually had a triple minor in psychology, Japanese, and ballroom dancing.
Wow.
So kind of Renaissance man of sorts, right? I actually
Yeah,
lived in
you're mixing
Japan
it
for a couple of
up.
years, so
Hmm.
did that. That's why I studied Japanese a little bit more in college and did ballroom dancing. I actually danced on actually the world championship team, formation team that
Wow.
in Blackpool, England, and things like that. So it was just kind of an interesting path that I took, but my whole goal was to become a business consultant.
Uh-huh.
So right before I got my bachelor's, I thought, I shouldn't just have a degree. I should have real life experience if I'm going to be a business consultant because I really wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? I wanted to be the guy that had control of my own time and my money and freedom and everything, my own destiny, right?
Hmm.
And so I dropped out of college with one, really not even a course to go, it was one paper to write. I
Wow.
dropped out of college and then went the entrepreneur path, which led me down to becoming a financial advisor, like the mainstream financial advisor. And that was right after 9/11 had happened.
Okay.
And I thought, hey, I'm going to try this out for a year as a sabbatical, and then I'll go back and get my MBA.
Hmm.
Well, I actually like being an entrepreneur, decided not to get my MBA. And I was a financial advisor for 4 years, doing the traditional thing. But then I realized that, really, if you look at the evidence of people that have gotten this financial advice over decades, they're really not much better off than everybody else,
So
right?
what kind of advice were you giving people? Are you selling them like annuities and life insurance and
Mutual
mutual
funds and
funds?
yeah, exactly. Just the traditional mainstream crap that you get from every other financial advisor, right?
Were you with a
Um,
big company or were you a small outfit? Did you have to hustle to get your own clients? Were you, learning
Yeah,
sales
it was
skills?
independent brokerage.
Hmm.
It was commission only. Had to get my own clients. I did it as a side hustle at first. So I was working a
Hmm.
job, doing taking customer service calls, including in Japanese, right, and
Oh,
doing
wow.
some of that full time while on the side I was being a financial advisor, and then left that about 2004, 2005, and
Hmm.
went more full time into that business. And but yeah, just teaching the same traditional junk you hear from Susie Ormans and the Dave Ramseys of the world, right? Which is save everything, spend nothing, buy mutual funds and save it forever. And hopefully someday you'll have something, right?
Yeah, and I'm getting the vibe that you're right. That's the conventional wisdom. You work hard, you get a corporate job, you save put lots of money in your IRA and hope there's kind of enough in there to give you financial freedom from, 65 to 95.
Mhm.
And it sounds like you're not a big fan of that model.
Not anymore. No. About 4 years in, again, I like evidence, right? I like to see that things
Mm.
work. I'm kind of like a scientist of sorts, and when I started to see that people weren't, doing well, It was about end of 2005. There's a guy I trained to be in that business that left to go do real estate investing. So him and his father partnered up for the previous 4 months to do real estate. So I was kind of curious to see how he was doing, kind of expecting him to say that they weren't doing well, so he'd come back and work for me, right? Well, I was wrong.
But
So I called
2005
him up.
was booming. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. In fact, I asked him like, "Well, how's your real estate business?" He says, "Oh, it's amazing. My dad has doubled his income from being a professor at the local university." And I was like, "Wait, that's too good to be true. Come on, you're pulling my leg, right?"
Mhm.
And he said, "No, I'm dead serious. It is." And so we started getting this debate about what's better, stocks or real estate. And
Mhm.
finally, he stopped me and he said, "Chris, how many of your clients are actually financially free where they don't worry about money every day?" And I thought about even the ones that had retired, right? The ones that were just living in retirement. And I thought, well, even those guys, they're not really financially free because they're watching CNN. They freak out, like they're still scared that they'll run out of money.
Mhm.
So my answer was none. I don't think any of them are really free. He said, "Well, good job, Chris. Way to go." All right. Second question. Yeah, if anybody's got this figured out, it should be you guys as financial advisors. So how many of you are financially free, not off the commissions you've been earning, but actually doing the investments, buying these mutual funds that supposedly make you financially free? How many of you guys as financial advisors are free off of that? And I thought about it for a while and just had to be honest with myself. And I said, none. I said, maybe this one guy in our office is. Found out he wasn't either. Right when he got laid off a few years later, he was scrambling for work. He was all, as they say in Texas, all hat and no cattle. Right.
Right. Fancy
And
suits and flashing, bit flash, but yeah, not a
yeah,
lot behind the curtain.
yeah, exactly. He had a nice little strut, but in the end of the day, the money wasn't adding up. And that's the truth. Is that really when you look at trying to retire off mutual funds, it's almost impossible to do. You really almost can't even save enough. Guaranteed, you can't even save enough in your 401k to ever retire. Like you can never stuff in enough money. Most likely, if you want a 20-year retirement goal, you got to start stuffing away 100,000 a year so you can live on like a 60,000 a year lifestyle. It's a ridiculous scam. And so when he got me there, I was like, okay, all right, I get it. So what's the answer? He's like, I'm not going to tell you the answer because you're not open. I'm like, listen, you got me to admit this. Give me something. He said, all right, if you're really serious, go get this book by Robert Kiyosaki called Who Took My Money, which basically, to save you the 3 hours audiobook, means mutual funds suck. And here's why. And that's the premise of the book, right?
Okay.
Great. And then really, in essence, it's really a great book. So I read that or listened to it on audiobook, overnight. And then the next day, then he said, yeah, we'll listen to this AM radio show talking about these two real estate investors talking about real estate and getting financially free.
Who's that, the real estate guys?
Nope. This is pre-podcast days. This is like 2006, so this is even before them. Yeah, and these guys, they don't even do the show anymore. One of them actually has passed on, but I started listening to the show, and after a couple of months, I realized by March of 2006, I can't keep teaching this stuff as a financial advisor. So at that moment, I quit. I said, I will never teach about money again. I'll just be a mortgage broker. I'll do mortgages because it's 2006. There's tons of mortgages at that time, like it is now. Yeah. And I'll just teach ballroom dancing on the side. And so I started down that path. But again, it ate at me that these guys knew something that I didn't.
What were they doing with real estate? This ex-college professor and his son, who's presumably kind of late 20s, like you were.
Yeah, they were doing more like hard money lending, flipping, things like that.
Okay.
Doing more of those kind of projects. And so, I started trying to learn kind of what these guys were doing. Now, I didn't go so far as doing really like a lot of active flipping at that time. Because again, 2006 was right at the height of that market before the crash, so banking on appreciation became a little bit too tempting. What I should have done is focus on cash flow. Didn't do that. But yeah, I mean, in any case, I was able to actually become financially independent myself by the summer of 2006. And I was 28 years old thinking, what am I going to do with my life? So in 2007, I came out.
What do you mean by that? That you're earning enough passive income to, just kind of chill or take 3 months off or 6 months off? How did you do that by 28?
Yeah, it happened almost accidentally. So, I mean, there's a little bit on the real estate side, but the part that surprised me was, these guys that were, they were very business minded, right? And so they would talk about principles more than strategies. right? So they would talk about things saying, first, like, here's a big principle that I started focusing on because I couldn't remember all the things they taught, but I remember the big one that got me was dollars follow value created. The more you create value for somebody else, the more money is a natural byproduct of that, right? Money is just a receipt. It's just evidence of value received or value promised. Well, at that time, even though I quit being a financial advisor, people would kind of come to me noticing that something was shifting in me. There was something different about my energy, right? And so they're like, well, like, give me some money advice. I'm like, honestly, I don't want to give you any money advice, but they're like, yeah, but what are you doing now? I said, well, here's what I'm learning now. And I just start to tell them a little bit. And sometimes it'd be just like, hey, do you know you have equity in your house? You can use that to invest and create a bigger return than your mortgage. You can essentially pay your mortgage payment for yourself by investing with it. And that would get them excited. Now, here's the thing is that one of those guys that was not my friend, but one of those guys I actually started mentoring with that was a millionaire. He said, hey, Chris, do you like doing mortgages as a broker? And I said, well, I like teaching. I like getting the results. I hate paperwork. He said, well, find somebody who likes doing paperwork. Let them do all the work for you. Sure. So essentially, I'd almost like tease these people and say, yeah, you can cash out, refi, get your essentially invest that in real estate and get that to pay your payment for you, or do a hard money loan, or do like lend out your money, or do whatever you want to do, right? Well, that was of course mind blowing for me as a financial advisor. It blew their minds because that was something that just never had been talked about, at least in the public as easily, right? Yep. And so they're like, well, great, where do I get this mortgage? Well, go talk to someone's, talk to my buddy over here. So he would go and do all the work. I would get a check for $1,000 or $2,000 after talking to these people. Right. And I'm like, well, that was dang easy, And so it was just family and friends. I didn't market or anything. In fact, if anybody I didn't know was trying to ask me what I did, I would just joke with them and tell them I sold drugs because I didn't know how to describe what I was doing, because I was investing, but I was also kind of doing business, but it wasn't like business before where I was hustling. It was very
organic. You're just
very organic,
doing
very
stuff
residual.
you enjoy doing.
Yeah. It was very residual, very organic. I was literally working less than a 4-hour work week, before Tim Ferriss wrote his book. Right. And so that's how I was able to do it. I was just doing a couple hours a week, but it was paying me $4,000 or $5,000 a month, because I would not only do it with the mortgage company, but I would do it with other companies that people would say, hey, who do you know that does blank? And I'd say, hey, go talk to so-and-so. There was even a wholesale jeweler. Like, people would say, yeah, I'm getting engaged. I'm like, buy your ring here. Don't buy at the mall. Buy it here. It'll be a third of the cost, and just little organic things like that. I was just really good at connecting people or creating solutions by not necessarily having to be the guy that created the solution. So between that and then, then of course I end up selling my property and then leasing it back and then subleasing it to get the rental income off of it and, get all the equity out and stuff. I was stripping the equity and, I was doing all that kind of stuff at that time too. But
I think you enjoyed experimenting like that. This is really useful to develop all of those skills. You never know when you might be able to deploy them again. That's great. It's just if you have that curiosity and willingness to just try things that sound fun. I mean, that's a big, so it sounds like you positioned yourself nicely in the run up, 2006, 7, 8, you were making the most of opportunities from your network of friends, from the mortgages and from referrals. So what happened with the big crash then? How did that, obviously it affected all of us. How did it affect you?
That kicked my butt. So, because, at 2006, I started getting a lot of confidence to the point where it became arrogance. Right. And of course, being 28, I hadn't had a lot of life experience. I thought I was just, the best thing since, sliced bread. Yeah. Right. Well, 2007, a bunch of us got together. Some of us that had become financially independent said, hey, let's create a company, an education company, to teach people how to get out of the rat race. And we focused towards real estate investors. Right.
Okay.
And it was interesting because as I got into it, one of the partners said, hey, listen, Chris, I want you to be focused here. I don't want you doing all these little, multiple streams of income stuff. Even though that's exactly what we taught, he didn't want me to do that. He's like, no, stay focused here with our mission. This is the mission we've got here. So I cut off those streams of income. That was mistake number one. Mistake number two was, of course, I started banking on appreciation, right? Because I thought, well, if I buy a $100,000 property and it appreciates 10%, that's $10,000 bucks. But if you buy a $500,000 property that appreciates 10%, that's $50,000. So I should go big, right? Kind of go big or go home. And I ended up going home. So ended up having to foreclose on my house by 2009. I was in the hole 16,000 a month roughly between my business and my personal expenses. I was short
Ouch.
about 15,000, 16,000 a month. Had to quickly dig out of that hole. Didn't file for bankruptcy. I'm just stubborn that way because I
Hmm.
wanted to pay stuff back. But it was over $1 million debt hole by the time I started to get things back to zero, paycheck to paycheck, and then starting to get back on my feet again. And that took a couple years. It was 2009, late 2009 before really things started to turn around for me. And I actually stopped teaching people how to get out of the rat race and instead started teaching people what I was doing, which was be resourceful. Because again, I want to be in integrity with whatever I teach. So if I'm not practicing it, I don't teach it, right? And that's what I started doing. And of course, during the recession, people were like, if I can just find money, that'd be great. And me going through the experiences I went through, most people's situation was, well, yours is easy. I wouldn't tell them, well, mine's worse than yours, but I would say, yeah, that's easy. Here's where you can find money. Here's where you can get creative. Here's how you pay off debt without having to use any of your own money. Doing things to refinance or restructure things. And essentially, I was helping people free up a lot of cash flow. And eventually, my business started to build to the point where I was able to once again not only pay off those debts, but then get passive income going with multiple streams, not just in the business side, but also with real estate and other places. Where by the end of 2016, I was able to be independent once more.
That's a nice kind of virtual circle that when you had that humbling experience and chastening experience that kind of forced you to take control and get back to basics with cash flow and having more coming in than going out, and then using that
Yes.
knowledge to teach other people to do the same thing, which brought more money into your business, and you just kind of you helped them and they helped you and you kind of grew together.
Yeah.
So I'm keen to learn more about what kinds of because I remember like promoting real estate back in 2010 and 11, and if you
Mhm.
had money you could do all sorts of really great stuff. So what
Yeah.
kind of tips did you give people to free up cash flow that would enable them to invest in income streams or invest in things that would, create wealth?
Yeah, some of the same things I do today. I mean, one, start tracking your money, right? That's the one
Sure.
mistake I made, because 2006, so much money was coming in, it was like air. You just don't count your breaths when you have so much abundance of air.
Mm.
But when the air is gone, you treasure every breath, right?
Yeah.
And money's no different. And that I started telling people, hey, track money, not just what's going out. Don't just track expenses. That's what all the savers do. Track money coming in and start looking for ways to adjust either, right? Can we get rid of unproductive expenses, things that
Hmm.
aren't really doing you justice? By the way, just by tracking your money, I guarantee when people say they're too busy to track money, uh, all the time I find at least $500 a month that they just find just by tracking their money.
Yeah,
Just
these
by
gym subscriptions you forgot about, or
yeah,
direct debits that you're not using. I mean, yeah, I mean,
oh yeah,
totally correct.
yes, exactly. So there's lots of those things. Business owners, especially if you're entrepreneurs, there's tax saving strategies you can do. A lot of those things that most don't ever employ because their accountants are just number takers, not actually teachers of strategies, right? Debt. Teach people how to get creative and paying off debt. Sometimes, and I don't like people just to go debt free. I'm not a Dave Ramsey advocate that way. I'm more about how do we get those payments as low as we possibly can. If they're not productive, get rid of them. Get those out. So sometimes paying off credit cards make a lot of sense.
Sure.
Sometimes a credit card can be great depending on who you are, what kind of steward you are of the money that you have, right?
Hmm.
But like a lot of times it's maybe, hey, we got equity in this home. Can we cash out refinance? Can we do something with that equity to invest? This last year, oh my goodness. I mean, with 2020 and COVID was like the best year. I always tell people three things is, get liquid, really just get liquid and get out, right? Get lean as well. Like get lean, get liquid, get out, right? It's
Hmm.
like, start tracking your money, make sure you have the right expenses that you're using. If it's not a productive expense, get rid of it. Get liquid in the sense of having cash on hand, and then get out. Like get your money out of prison. If it's locked up in equity in your house, get it out. It's paying you nothing. How can that money start paying you? Can you get money out of the markets? Can you get money out of these mutual funds where the market is right, now going sky high? Is it time to capture that and use that somewhere else? And
Hmm.
it's really hard because right now, when the whole masses, especially when we've had 12 years of an up market, I mean, we haven't
Yeah.
had a bull market like that ever, where it's been
No,
12
it's
straight years up. That's just unheard of.
I
And
thought the end was this time last year. I thought that the 11-year run was finally coming to an end, and
yeah,
that people that would have access to the cash and maybe access to the cash buyers were going to be able to take advantage of all sorts of opportunities to buy below market value assets. And obviously,
mhm,
the opposite happened. It was
yeah,
cash was easy to get, and assets were very hard to get. I mean,
yeah.
so
Lumber's
so.
triple the price it was a year ago, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's just crazy what's going on right now. And so, again, like people might say, yeah, but I want to jump off when it's going up. Well, I taught people how to trade stocks and options. The one thing we always talk about is take your profits and run, right? Like, especially
Mm.
if we saw, like we were trading over a couple of days when it had like, if a stock went up 5 or 6 days in a row, you would get antsy and nervous. You say, oh, a stock doesn't do that very often. Like your odds every time, every day means it's going to go
Mhm.
down the next day. Sometimes mean you take money out. Now it might run up a little bit more before it goes down, but you just don't look back. You just say, you know what? It doesn't matter. If I can get that money out and then get it somewhere else where it's a better value, doing better things, that's good. And that's where like real estate right now, oh my goodness. I laugh so hard when people say, oh, it's in a bubble again. It's going to happen like the last recession. Understand that in the last several decades, that's the only time real estate went down. Out of 6 recessions, that was the only recession real estate values dropped, was the last one. In most recessions, they either stay the same or they increase. And we're
Mhm.
seeing it now. You think it's high now, just wait a couple years. And you'll see the real estate market, unless they jack up interest rates big time, you're going to see the values keep going up. We're already having shortages of supply. We have shortages of materials. It's just driving it all up. We're not even close to the crest yet. Where the stock market is already, it's been estimated last month, it was 249% overvalued.
Mm.
That means if it were come back in a real valuation, the stock market would drop 60%, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous what's going on right now. So you
Yeah,
get,
the stock market makes me nervous. I used to own a lot of stock and I sold it because it just made me too nervous. And it was only a
yeah.
small part of my portfolio, but I was always looking at it. It's gone down 5%, down 10%, up 5%, up 10%. I was just, I
Hmm.
don't need this stress in my life. I wasn't stressing about the real estate I owned around the country or the properties I didn't stress about that. I guess because I had more control over it, or I had more faith in the stability of the market, or the unlikelihood of massive drops in a short period of time. I figured the worst that'll happen is that I break even on some deals, or I take a haircut, or my cash flow goes from 400 a month to 40 a month, and I could live with all those scenarios. That was okay,
Yeah.
but I got nervous about the stock markets, and I can't imagine how nervous I would be if my whole retirement was tied up in the equivalent of an S&P 500 index fund. It would, you know I'd just
Yeah.
lose all
The
my hair.
stock market is kind of like your sexy bipolar girlfriend, right? Ex-girlfriend or whatever. Like you want to be around her, but at the same time, you don't need that drama in your life. Right? It's like
Hmm.
it's exciting, but it's dramatic. And when you have real estate, and that's one big thing I learned, right, from the last recession was don't go for the sexy, right? Go for the boring, because boring is sexy. Like I love getting those properties. Like I personally love doing turnkey real estate, like rental real estate. That's my favorite strategy for my own portfolio,
Hmm.
because I love making 300, 400, 500 bucks a month. Like I think that is sexy. Having that steady, predictable income of something I can control the outcome on. I don't have to worry about markets as much. I'm not banking on markets. I'm not banking on appreciation. I just need to have consistency, and that's what I love. And yeah, I'll do other things, like I'll do things with syndications. I'll do things with funds. I'm even doing things with like seller financing and land type deals and stuff. But at the end of the day, like I just love consistent, stable, predictable cash flow.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Most of my assets are tied up in boring, cookie cutter, suburban, middle class houses, which are
Yeah.
very plain, very boring, very unsexy, but they're awesome for wealth preservation, income generation. I mean, they're just far better than the topsy turvy, fancy pool homes, Miami condos, whatever else you're into. So I'm curious. You mentioned a couple of interesting things there, Chris. So what types of income streams do you currently have, and what kind of stuff are you encouraging other people to build?
Yeah. If it's coming to active income, if you're looking at active income streams, only do stuff that you would do regardless of the money, right? Like things that even if something goes wrong, you're still okay being there. Because I get people that sometimes they want to get into like wholesaling or flipping and things like that. But when I ask them, well, if say that you have a rough go, like a rough period, are you going to love that business? No, I can't stand it. Right. I don't even like learning about it, but honestly, I just want to have something that pays me. Well, that sounds like a job.
Yeah.
You don't want to just work for a paycheck. So if you're going to do active income streams, be sure it's something that you love doing. There's a passion there for you, right?
Hmm.
Now, passive income streams, you don't have to be as picky that way. Passive income streams, like I said, like I love turnkey real estate investing. I don't like to manage my own properties, so I love having somebody else do all the work for me and be able to make a double digit cash on cash return plus tax advantages plus appreciation plus you know paying down my mortgages and all that kind of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to beat something that's so low risk yet high overall returns. It's hard to beat that.
You own enough of those for long enough and they'll kick ass compared to
Yeah,
anything else you do. Yeah.
exactly. And you can keep them, you can hold them, you can sell them if the return on equity gets low. I tell you, like I've had so many people from the West Coast, right? Like California, Washington, Oregon, and already the landlord laws stink there. But when
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
tells me they've got properties in those states, I'm like, okay, well, you probably want to sell them. We haven't heard the numbers, Chris. I don't have to. You can tell
Yeah.
me the numbers. It's probably just going to support even more why your return on equity is low because you probably have low cash flow compared to the equity in that property where you can
Yeah.
go out east. I mean, there's places like I just had a client yesterday saying, I'm just looking at Texas and Florida.
Hmm.
I've got other clients that are looking at the Southeast and the Midwest, like where it's just steady cash flow. It's kind of boring, but boring again is sexy, right? So, that kind of stuff is what we're looking for. And I have one guy right now, like his whole goal, like he was the ultimate Dave Ramsey fan, right?
Hmm.
I mean, he had one rental property in California and he had his own home. His goal
Okay.
was to pay extra payments until he paid it off in 6 years, and he would free up 4,500 a month. But between the equity of his house and the equity trapped in that rental property, he could actually cash out about 800 to $900,000. That he would have access to. It's like, hey, sell that property, keep your house, but sell that property, get the equity out of it, 1031 it to other properties, even like fourplexes, wherever it might be.
Yeah.
And man, like even on a conservative return, he should have been making about 80,000 a year from that equity. You
Easy.
know, and that's yeah, exactly. It's easy, right? Compare now that's 80,000. Now, if he keeps reinvesting that for the next 6 years, that's going to get up over 100,000 a year. What's crazy is that same 6 years he was hoping just to free up by being debt free, quote unquote, 4,500 a month, but instead we're getting him over 100 grand a year. So
Hmm.
it's such a different mentality, but when you really see it, and most people, that's the thing, most people are just blind to the potential that's already in their situation. They could be so much more resourceful with the money they already currently have.
It's a big mental block that they see it as a high risk situation to kind of sell a house that they know and have had a lot of experience with and understand the street and the
Mhm.
property type and what the values and rents, how they've gone in the last 5, 6 years. And the kind of
Yeah.
thought of selling a $600,000, condo in San Diego to go and buy 7 single family homes with a 70% mortgage in Tampa,
Hmm.
any kind of experienced real estate investor will be, yeah, that's a much safer thing to do. You're increasing your asset column dramatically, you're spreading your risk dramatically, you're increasing
Yeah.
your income dramatically, you're increasing your return on equity dramatically. what's what are you worried about? You should be more worried about just sitting on your hands, right?
Yep. But when
it's
that's their
it's
previous starter home, or something like that,
yeah.
where they turn it into a rental later and they get this emotional attachment to it, or like you said, they're comfortable, just doing what they're doing. And by the way, that property that had about 600,000 of equity in it was only paying him a net of $200 a month.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
like, man, that thing stinks. Let's get rid of it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
But a lot of those Californian landlords or homeowners, they've enjoyed incredible appreciation,
that's true.
that won't last forever. So
Hmm.
I've helped a lot of those folks, 1031 out of them and into better markets for cash flow, like Tampa, Florida, where I am now. And
Oh yeah.
it's if you time it right, it's fantastic, and if you time it wrong, then you've missed your opportunity. But we've talked on some of those barriers that stop people. I mean, what are the other main barriers that you see that prevent people from making choices that are in their own kind of financial self-interest.
Yeah, it's almost all mental barriers. I'll tell you. For example, there's that myth that high risk creates high returns. That's a big one, right? Because we've been so brainwashed by financial institutions who take low risk to get guaranteed returns off of us, right? Because, like, for example, Fidelity. Say you've got money in a mutual fund or in your 401k, guaranteed they're pulling out probably a good 1% or more, depending on what kind of fund you have. If you have a 401k, you probably have higher fees than that than you would just getting your own mutual fund. Well, they're making their guaranteed fund, money from that. They don't care whether the market goes up or down. They will always make money. And that's why they're the ones telling you should keep saving. You got that miracle of compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world, which, by the way, Einstein never said, but that's what every financial institution or network marketing company will quote, right? They'll quote him, misquote him, saying that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and he didn't say that. But they'll tell you to keep putting the money in, compound it, let it stay in there forever. Why? Because it gives them increased cash flow each and every year guaranteed. And even when you pull money out, they want you to pull out less than the interest so that it keeps increasing your balance. You never run out of money, but then they never run out of money either. And but they don't invest their own money in the market. So you got to be careful of that, because they're telling you take high risk, create high returns, because they're letting you take all the risk by putting your money in the market while they put none of their money in the market. And you want to do the opposite. You want to be more like the bank or the financial institution that makes a lot of money, not the average American who's getting hosed. So, like we just talked about real estate, right? Like rental real estate right there. I mean, there's still some risks. There's always inherent risk with everything. Heck, your savings account has risk because the FDIC can only cover about 2.5% of banks, if they were to fail. So your money's not even secured, even though they tell you it's all warm and fuzzy, it's got protection, right? So there's always risk. But with real estate, when you own an asset, you control it, right? It's not like something you don't have ownership in. You can call the shots and make changes if you have to.
Yeah.
When you start to do that, you get in this almost guaranteed monthly cash flow, right? Even if somebody vacates for a bit, you got a good property manager, you can again get somebody right back in, and get that flowing. There's maintenance issues, but that's if you do a good job up front, those maintenance issues are minimal, to almost none, as time goes on. So all those things, you can minimize your risk to ensure that you're profitable, getting great returns, So, and like I said, like it's not uncommon for, my real estate. Like I expect that total returns usually average about 30% plus a year, and I'm probably being conservative on that because I've had properties that have paid me 50% plus per year, and that's great. Like it's good when that happens. That's because, especially when you get appreciation, that those numbers go higher. But even when there isn't appreciation, if I can still make 25, 30% a year, that's what I want. And where else can you find that you can have low risk, you can have a secured collateralized asset versus riding market waves, which is what they all tell you to do.
I agree. And when you have that leverage with the fixed interest rate, when you have a tenant paying the loan down for you, it just kicks every other asset's butt. But you're right. It's amazing how many financial advisors don't have, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in the market. And to be honest with you, there's not that many realtors that have loads of rental properties. There's not that many property managers that are managing lots of their own properties. I mean, there's a whole range of people out there that are not practicing what they preach. And I guess there's a lesson there to try and find people that are doing that and hang out with them for a little bit and kind of pick up stuff from what they're doing. I mean, how do you do that? What kinds of people are you surrounding yourself with now compared to people you were surrounding yourself with when you're in your 20s?
Yeah, I definitely go for genuine people. I don't like people that are all flashy. They're all talk. I'm not the fan of no offense to him. I'm not the Grant Cardone kind of guy, right? Like I'm not the kind of person that's just all talk and BS,
Yeah, I'm not a guy I don't want to get a picture of me next to a private jet and a sports car and a pretty girl. That's not, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I got a little high grade Nissan Maxima. I'm pretty cool with that, because I'm not buying it for other people. I'm buying it, and I'm virtual anyways. Who gives a crap? I'm in my house most of the time. So, that's the thing is like, I like authentic, genuine, sincere people. Heck, even when I look at syndications, like a lot of my friends that are doing syndications are people that even if crap hits the fan, they will make sure that everybody else gets paid but them if they had to. Like
Yeah.
I have one friend that he's been paying his investors since 2003, even during the recession, during times when he had investments that were having some issues, he made sure everybody always got paid. And that's something that you can't really put in a pro forma as easily, right? I mean, that's
Hmm.
something that's about somebody's character, and that's what you really want to attract. And I'm in mastermind groups, like, I mean, some of the same friends. We have some of the same friends, same circles. Some of them are in that same mastermind group that I'm a part of. Like that, you want to make sure you're around the people that you want. First, you got to be the person that you want to attract, because if you're full of BS, you'll attract BSers, right? But if you're someone who's genuine, authentic, and sincere, you'll also attract those same people. Like, the other people won't want to come in your space. They just don't resonate with you. You
Hmm.
want to be the person that you want to resonate with. And when you do that, there's no shortage of opportunities to invest in. There's no shortage of deals. There's definitely no shortage of good people to talk to and bounce ideas off of.
That's great advice. That's great advice. I really agree with that a lot. And I'm curious. So what do you do? You've created some really great income ideas over the years. You've created financial independence for yourself, a couple of times. It sounds like more permanently the second time
Yeah.
round. And what's your why? Do you do it to travel? Is it with family? Is it to have time on your fitness? What's your what do you do with that extra freedom it gives you?
Yeah. I mean, because I am semi-retired now. I only work part-time, even in my own business, right? But I mean, it does give me the great freedom. I can be with my family more often. I can do more things with them. I go snowbird every winter. Like, I just went to Southwest Florida, for the month of January, just to experience it, just to be down there and see what it's like. And, I like doing that kind of stuff. But I mean, really, I could just sit and be happy, living my own life. But the thing that keeps me going and why I'm even on the show today is because
Mhm.
this is the message of hope and and really, like, strategy and things that people need, right? I can't stop. One, I don't want to, because after 2016, I kind of went to retirement mode, working maybe 5 hours a week. So boring. My own personal fire died out. I had to get excited again. And so it took me working at least 10, 20 hours a week to get there. But it was more about, what can we give others? Like, how can I pay it back? How can I really teach people and help them be able to accomplish the same thing that I did? And that's really what keeps driving me today. That's probably more exciting to me than anything, is just, what kind of legacy am I leaving? How am I making this world a better place than when I came into it?
That's awesome, and I agree. Your people are most kind of happy and calm when they have a purpose and they're working and stuff that brings them closer to that purpose. So it sounds like only a small part of your time is now spent on buying assets and building wealth. Is it a bigger chunk of your time spent on helping other people go along that journey? And if so, how do you do that?
Yeah, more so in the last year or two. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm still building my portfolio. I'm still doing deals, of course.
Hmm.
But really, I'm working with people on two different fronts. One is, of course, like, if not me, someone on my team consults with people and essentially acts like a counselor, or like a mentor, right? Say,
Hmm.
here's your situation. I know you wanted a financial advisor to tell you, buy mutual funds, but we don't want that. What can we do in the alternative investment space that'll allow you to get you your cash flow goals, whether it's 10,000, 20, 30,000 a month, whatever that is? How do we get there as quickly and safely as we can? So there's the mentoring part of it, right? Or consulting part. And then the other part that I do a little bit more myself now, more lately, especially in the last few years, from a lot of my real estate investor friends pressure me to do it, is I'm doing more like with the infinite banking stuff. So I have a strategy specifically I call max ROI infinite banking, since there are several infinite bankers out there that teach you how to double dip on your real estate investment returns, but they don't really give you the best ROI, because they often aren't giving the lowest cost type of insurance policies and stuff. So I teach people how to essentially create their own tax-free supercharged savings account to double dip on their returns.
That's interesting. I know we've had a couple of people on the show. MC Labshire was one of them that was
Yeah,
talking about infinite banking. He's a cool dude.
it is cool,
And
dude.
I had another guy that does it but doesn't teach it. But yeah, it's an interesting concept. It might take you a little bit of time to get your head around it, but it sounds like there's some real tax savings in there.
Yeah, if you come from an investor perspective, it's much cooler. The problem is, most of those guys come from an insurance perspective,
Hmm.
and we don't give a crap about. I mean, some retirement someday. I'm like, how do I get this to start helping me create cash flow now and bigger returns so I can do more properties faster, right? And that's
Yeah.
what you want, is how do I actually use this money to make more money off of itself?
I think it's amazing what I've realized over the last 5 or 6 years is that if you're in one rung, say you're in a lower rung of the ladder and you're kind of looking up towards the top of the ladder of people earning millions of dollars a year, I mean, you don't have to figure out everything they're doing. I think if you just focus
No.
on moving up the ladder, every time you move up a rung, you figure out something that helps you move to a different rung. And once you're earning, say, let's say more than 250 a year, there's a whole range of things you can do with your money and with tax benefits that you can't do if you're earning 100 a year. And the same thing happens when you get to 500 and a million and so on. And the fun part is the journey. It's not banking the cash. And, I think the people that earn that kind of money just enjoy what they're doing. They don't necessarily enjoy the money. They enjoy the process of whatever it is. The same way I might love the process of sourcing real estate or underwriting properties coming up at a foreclosure auction or managing a renovation, whatever it is. I just enjoy doing it. And the money comes from being good at what you do, right? It's not, don't pursue it for the money.
Yeah, it's like a video game, right? You always have to go through the levels, you upgrade as you go along. It's not like you just jump right to the advanced level and you die, right? You just got to upgrade. And it feels slow at first, but man, when you start getting that momentum, it just takes off, and it takes off fast.
Yeah, it does feel slow, and it might take it, but the progress, it gets exponential, right? You might go 2 steps in 1 year, and then 4 steps the next year, and 8 steps the next year, and 16 steps the following year. So if you just keep going, you'll be amazed at what you can do in a few years. Just don't expect it to happen in 6 months or 1 year. It's a journey.
Definitely not.
Right?
Yeah,
that's really cool. A lot of wisdom in there, Chris. I really enjoyed it. I mean, how can people find out more about you if they want to reach out to you or your colleagues and learn more about the types of advice you give people? Where should they go?
Yeah, if you want to reach out, you can always go to our website, moneyripples.com. That's RIPPLES.com, right? Or you can even just check out my own podcast. I've got my own show called The Chris Miles Money Show that I teach a lot of good concepts on too.
Chris Miles Money Show and moneyripples.com. I'll get those on the show notes. Yeah, thanks a million, Chris. I really enjoyed this, and I appreciated your journey and sharing it with us.
Yeah, it's been such an honor, Colin. I really appreciate it.
You got it. There you go, folks. That was show 49 with Chris Miles. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought he was a pretty interesting guy, brought a pretty original way of thinking to things. He's not, he's a little different than most of the other guests we've had, but in a good way. I like his approach to investing and his approach to life in general and managing his time and the reason he creates the income streams. And yeah, I hope we manage to hook up again soon. I'd love to spend a little bit more time with him and hang out with people with that type of mindset. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And yeah, a lot to learn there. Some food for thought for sure. And yeah, I'm going to keep these coming. That was show 49. We'll be at show 50 pretty soon. And if you haven't left me a rating or a review, I'd really appreciate if you could do that on iTunes or wherever you listen to these podcasts. My mailing list is expanding exponentially now on colininvestments.com. I have a lot of people reaching out to me there with their own stories, which I love reading about and love hearing. So by all means do that if you want to check out the various reports and videos and podcasts and other things I do, or get on my mailing list, because I do email people most weeks with stuff that I've been working on. So check it out if you like. And always happy to listen to people's ideas and feedback. And if I can help any of you on your own real estate journeys, or if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, don't be shy. I do set aside several slots every week just to help people out. And I'm happy to do so to you too. I enjoy doing it, so don't be shy. But apart from that, thanks for your support. I'll be back real soon with show 50, but until then, this is Colin Murphy signing out. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.